Welcome to the News 25 Saints Special with your host, Jeff Haeger.
And a very special welcome into this News 25 Dat Playoff Special. I'm your host, Jeff Haeger. Before we dive into the NFC Divisional Round preview, regretfully, there's something else we have to do first. Reliving the Minneapolis Miracle is never easy, but on the other side of last year's heartbreak is a chance to exercise that demon during this year's postseason run. So, as told by our friends in the booth, here's how we got from then to now.
Steps into it, pass is caught, Diggs, sideline, touchdown, unbelievable, Vikings win it. And the Saints get it, ball's out, and the Buccaneers have it. The ball fumbled, Justin Evans with a scoop, and he is in for a Buccaneers touchdown. Gonzalez, he's missed to the left, he's missed to the right. The Saints are going to win this game. And Breeze dives over, touchdown. His second of the game. And the Saints have won it. And he's able to get past the secondary, take off for his third touchdown of the game. Breeze wide open. Wide open. And Smith, what a way to do it. Justin Tucker. Are you kidding me? On a percentage basis. And that's picked off at the 44-yard line by P.J. Williams, uncontested to the end zone. Touchdown, Saints! Thanksgiving night. Ingram picks up a first down and more, still going to the end zone. Touchdown, Mark Ingram. Kamara hits the gas pedal and gets in. Breeze looking to throw. Now unloads it. Is he in? Oh, that's a touchdown.
The Saints finished the regular season with an overall record of 13-3, the third time they've done that during the Sean Payton era. Which brings us to their first game of the 2019 calendar year against the Philadelphia Eagles, the matchup that shoulda, coulda, woulda been last year's NFC Championship game had it not been for the Minneapolis Miracle. I digress. Instead, this is just a rematch from Week 11, and New Orleans was the only team to show up for that one. 48-7, the final score in favor of the black and gold, who are coming into Sunday's game rested and healthy off a bye, whereas the Eagles are coming off a first-round nail-biter against the Chicago Bears. And let's revisit that NFC wildcard matchup between the Eagles and Bears, who didn't look like the same team that won that NFC North Championship on Sunday. We pick it up third quarter, still no touchdowns until this. Nick Foles still has some magic left in him, delivers the 10-yard strike to Dallas Goedert. And true story, the Bears only had 10 men on the field for this play. Philly on top 10-6. In the fourth, Bears looking to respond, and they do. Mitchell Trubisky hooking up with his main man, Allen Robinson, burn the corner on a double move, and that'll bring Soldier Field to life. But a failed two-point conversion would come back to haunt Chicago, makes it 15-10. Now here's why. Eagles on the doorstep, and it's Foles to Golden Tate. No one questioning that trade anymore. Go-ahead touchdown pass with less than a minute to go. The first one in the postseason in 25 years. Philadelphia now leads 16-15, but the Bears still had their chance to win it late. Former Eagle Cody Parkey lining up for the game winner. And remember, this is the same guy that hit the upright 4 times in one game earlier this year. Surely not again, but it gets tipped at the line of scrimmage. And it's a double doink off the left upright, off the crossbar. And that's the difference between the Saints playing Dallas and the Saints playing Philly as the Eagles escape 16-15. If we're giving credit where credit is due, the defending Super Bowl champions have come a long way from their Week 11 thrashing in New Orleans. The Eagles proceeded to win 5 out of their last 6 games just to make the playoffs, which has the Saints on high alert. That 41-point triumph was the Saints' largest margin of victory since 2012, but they didn't beat anyone by more than 2 touchdowns the rest of the season. And despite resting starters, the Panthers ran the Saints out of the Dome in Week 17, so now it's on the veteran leaders to make sure an otherwise young team doesn't take this moment for granted.
Each game counts in this league. You know, when teams start the game plan for us, you know, they're gonna turn on that tape. You know, they're gonna see things they think they can attack. So for us, it's on us to fix those mistakes.
You do have to cherish the moments, but you also have to be in it fully and not look on the outside, because it's important that we're in it, experiencing the moment and preparing and playing as if, you know, it's any other game, but hey, we need to win these games to stay in it.
Later in the show, we'll check in with the Eagles to see how they feel about playing the same team that beat them by 41 points earlier this season. Coming up after the break, the happy couple from Gulfport that went to Super Bowl 52 joins us in studio to reflect on the journey that was all the way up to Minneapolis. Stay right there.
Welcome back to the News 25 Saints Special.
Welcome back to the News 25 Who Dat Playoff Special. I'm Jeff Haeger. Joining me are Greg and Traycee Williams. They won Super Bowl tickets from the Saints last year, and this year they're joining us right here in the Fox Lounge. So let's start by reminding everyone, how did you guys win those tickets, and what was the experience like?
Well, we went to the Saints website and just registered to win, and we were the lucky ones to win out of more than 70,000 entries. So.
And you got to meet Delvin Breaux.
And we got to meet Delvin Breaux, and we also got to meet Drew Brees while we were there. Yes. It was just amazing.
I guess you didn't wash those hands, right?
And that's what I told him. I said, I'll never wash my shoulder again, but I did, of course.
And so you guys get the call. You probably think it's a telemarketer or something like that. You go to the Super Bowl. What's it like? It
was just amazing. It was just everything that you dream about the Super Bowl being. It was all that and more. We got to meet all of the other teams who won. There were 2 members from every team, so there were 32 of us, and we have now become the best of friends. So I'm friends with the Falcon fans and Eagles fans and the Steelers fans, but the Saints fans are still the best fans of them all.
And now, Greg, I remember you telling me you had to pick between Patriots, Eagles. You didn't know who to root for, but then you said, okay, Malcolm Jenkins, Darren Sproles, so kind of talk about what it was like.
Had to go with Philadelphia Eagles. It was fun. It was a blast. The weather was nice. It was nice and cold up there.
It was very cold.
We had fun, though, meeting everybody and just enjoying the company of all the other teams. We got a chance to meet some of the referees that called the game, and they did all kind of games with us and showed us how they call the game. So I understand the call's a little bit better now after you go to
We actually met. We had a session called You Make the Call. And we actually sat with the 2 guys in New York, Al, and I can't remember the other guy's name, but we actually sat with them, and they showed us some of the most controversial plays in the history of the NFL. And they explained to us how they actually made those calls. So this experience was like none other. And we were the first group that the NFL has ever done this with. So hopefully they'll have hopefully they'll have a reunion.
Yeah. Now, hopefully you don't mind me touching some of this stuff. We have the Super Bowl tickets are right here, and I don't know if there's any other memorabilia you wanted to show off from the trip that you guys made up there.
They didn't actually give us the tickets then. They sent them to us later. So these are actually collector's items. And then with the book, inside the book here, I actually have some of
this way a little bit.
Some of the confetti that was thrown down after the Eagles had won. Then we have the football that we bought, and they have the NFL experience there. They also have the lights. And at the game, these lights, these cups lit up every time either the Eagles scored or the Patriots scored. It was blue for the Patriots and green for the Eagles. And now we can program them for our team. And so they light up every time the Saints score.
And now very quick, to close things out, how are your lives different than they were at this time last year?
This year we're wishing we can go. Last year we were actually going.
Well, thank you guys for your time. Thank you for stopping by. They have a room devoted to the Saints. It's a guest bedroom. If you get an Atlanta Falcons fan in the house, you might be able to convert them, maybe something
Absolutely.
like that.
And we figure if you go to sleep in our room, you'll wake up and say, who dat?
Who dat? Well, thank you guys again for joining us.
you.
They are the biggest Saints fans on the coast. Greg and Traycee Williams. Now, Jaylon Morris is going to join us here in studio to talk about where some other fans can go to get geared up with all kinds of Saints swag.
Thanks, Jeff. Time is ticking until the Saints defend dome field advantage against the Eagles, and the Who Dat Nation on the coast is making sure it has top-notch gear all the way to Atlanta. Academy Sports and Outdoors and Gulfport is loaded with Saints apparel, with new shipments coming in every week. All-Pro receiver Michael Thomas seems to be the jersey of choice right now, and rightfully so, by breaking Joe Horn's franchise record for receiving yards in a single season. Regardless of whether you'll be cheering from the dome or cheering from home, black and gold won't go out of style this football season.
How great would that be for them to go all the way to Atlanta, win it on that Dirty Bird field and celebrate in Atlanta? It would just be awesome. I mean, we've got apparel for men's, women, and kids here. We really just want to get that customer taken care of and really just get that Who Dat experience all over the coast, man.
You already know I'll have my black and gold ready to go. Coming up, News 25's Tanner Stewart joins Jeff Haeger on the couch, as well as a special guest with some pretty in-depth information on the Saints. The Who Dat Playoff Special will be back after this.
Welcome back to the News 25 Saints Special.
Welcome back. You're watching the Who Dat Playoff Special in WXXV. I'm Tanner Stewart. Now, we moved Jeff over to a more relaxed setting with us here tonight. Joining us as well, John Sigler with Saints Wire.
Who Dat?
Guys, it's coming down to the wire now, almost.
Saints
playoff
Wire.
times. Saints Wire. It's time for the playoffs. Now, before we get into some specifics, Jeff, I'll start with you. Where do you think the Saints stand compared to the rest of the league?
Well, it's down to 8, and what I really like is the fact that coming off byes in the playoffs, and Sean Payton has been there. He's 2-0. That doesn't mean it's a guarantee. And also coming off the win over the Eagles last time they played, 41 points. That's the Saints' largest win since 2012 in terms of margin of victory. So when you look at this particular matchup, I like our odds.
So it looks good as of now.
As of now.
John?
Yeah, the Saints are the team to beat, really. They've got the best balance of offense and defense, and as we've seen, the home field advantage in the Superdome is quite fearsome.
Okay, so let's look at this week's matchup. Staying in the Dome against the Eagles. Twice this year it'll be. What's different from this time looking back at Week 11?
Yeah, number one, quarterback. Last time we played Carson Wentz, he was intercepted 3 times, benched by the end of the game. Now we've got Nick Foles. The Eagles play a different style of football with him. They're using different formations, getting other players involved, and it's going to be quite a challenge for the Saints defense to shut him down as badly as they shut down Carson Wentz in the first meeting.
Jeff?
Well, we kind of were the spark for where the Eagles are now. They had to win every game that they did win to even get to this point, and they won 6 out of their last 7 up to now. So we kind of, I guess, be careful what you wish for, because we beat them pretty bad, but they might want a little revenge. So.
Now, John, you followed the Saints for a while now. As we embark on what hoping will be a Super Bowl season, what's some optimism?
Yeah, just look at what the Saints have accomplished so far. They've won every way that you can think of. They've won coming off of a bye week. They've won on the road in cold weather, in hazardous conditions, venues like Minnesota, Baltimore. They played it very close in Dallas. Even though if that one didn't end the way we wanted to, there were some positives to take away from that game. Look at how the Saints are playing now. They've beaten opponents by 41 points, as we've seen. They're just a very difficult opponent, and the rest of the NFL is looking up towards them as the team to knock off.
Okay, so Jeff, you and I have talked about this all season. John just talked about who everyone's looking up, but who specifically are we looking for? Who's the X factors?
Are we talking players here?
Players, absolutely.
Well, I think you got to look at the running backs, because especially last year, Alvin Kamara burst onto the scene, right? But last year, we were 3rd in the league in big play runs. That's runs over 20 yards. This year, only 24th. So I don't know if the league kind of caught up to what Kamara was doing.
So maybe some more balance there.
Obviously, Ingram out for those 4 weeks, so maybe that stat is a little skewed. But Eagles 7th in the league in rushing defense. So we got to, pop a big run or 2 early to kind of establish, put that foot on the gas, and get ahead.
John?
Yeah, some areas with the Eagles' run defense that stand out. They may rank pretty highly in the yards per carry allowed, Yards after contact, they're 24th in the league. What does Alvin Kamara do that we see every week?
He's slippery.
He's slippery. He bounces off of contact, gets in the open field. He very rarely goes down to the first guy that hits him. The X factor I'm looking for is on offense. Ted Ginn Jr. What happened last time the Saints and Eagles played? They double-teamed Michael Thomas at receiver. They double-teamed Kamara at running back. And we had our rookie Traquan Smith break out for like 150 yards. He hasn't repeated that performance because he's had a toe injury for the last few months. But Ted Ginn Jr. is back in the fold. He was a great weapon for Drew Brees last year. That's going to come into play against the Eagles this time around.
And if I could interject the stat, I think one thing that we really got to look for, that's people don't talk about this stat a lot, point differential. The last 5 years, the team that led the league in point differential went to the Super Bowl. 3 out of those 5 times they won the Super Bowl. And 4 out of those 5 years, the teams that were 1 and 2 in the league in that department went to the Super Bowl. So based on that logic, we're looking Saints-Chiefs. I don't want to jinx it, but.
Okay, so before we jinx it, real quick, you guys, you have one choice. Besides your X Factor players, who's your standout guy?
Drew Brees.
Drew Brees?
Yeah, man of the hour, Drew Brees.
The man of the hour, Drew Brees. So,
some would say he was MVP-esque this year.
Let's hope so.
Yeah.
Anything else, John?
Yeah, interesting stat, now that we mentioned Drew Brees here. The top 2 highest rated quarterbacks in the playoffs, in quarterback rating, passer rating, whatever you want to call it. Number 2, Nick Foles. So we may have a shootout on our hands. Maybe the Saints defense can come through in the clutch.
Exciting stuff, guys. Thank you so much. Now, I think we're all a little bit more prepared for this year's matchup. Story waiting to happen, guys. And coming up, we're going to make some predictions.
Absolutely.
Sounds great.
Tune in. After the break, Jeff Haeger kicks me off the desk to tell us more about Sunday's game through the eyes of the betting world. We know the Saints are favored, but by how much? Those details coming up.
Welcome back to the News 25 Saints Special.
Welcome back to the show. Rooting on the New Orleans Saints took on a new meaning back in August when sports betting became legal on the Mississippi Gulf Coast. And the Scarlet Pearl can still root for the Saints from a financial standpoint, having just opened recently in November. By that point, the Black and Gold were already a Vegas heavyweight with a record of 8-1, which means the Pearl avoided all of the heavy preseason action. When other books opened, the Saints were a 15-1 favorite to win the Super Bowl, but now they're the favorite to win the big game with 5-2 odds. Scarlet Pearl Director of Sports Nico Spanos says New Orleans is the adopted team of this region, and it really shows on game day.
It brings in business, outside, people they're not going to just come here and they're going to sit and just watch the Saints and leave. They want to come, they want to drink, they want to eat. At halftime, they're going to play some machines. Before and after the game, they might want to, circle around and use some of our different amenities. So it creates excitement. And like I said, with the Saints being in the playoffs, it creates, more gambling interest with the other teams too. So, the Saints, we're pleased that they're going to be the front runner to win the Super Bowl.
Spanos also says the Saints are only second to college football betting in terms of game day traffic. Now let's check out that action, boss, for the NFC Divisional Round game between those Saints and Eagles. At the Scarlet Pearl, the line opened with the Saints favored by 8.5 points, and the over-under set at 51.5. And the Saints haven't just been good in the standings this year. They're a top 5 team in the league against the spread with a mark of 10-6. Not so much for the Eagles, who were just 7-9 in the regular season against the spread. Now, speaking of money, all bets are on in the Saints locker room. On Monday, Sean Payton wheeled in the Lombardi Trophy, sitting on top of $225,000 in cash with the help of 4 armed security guards. That's the lump sum for each player if New Orleans wins the Super Bowl, and running back Mark Ingram is already thinking about what's in his bag.
That's definitely motivating, bring the Lombardi Trophy and pretty much the sum of the amounts you win if you win all these rounds going to the Super Bowl. Seen it in cash, and yeah, it's pretty motivating to see the Lombardi Trophy with a bundle of cash like that, so that's definitely motivating, and just a little bit extra incentive, just, what are we playing for,
Payton reportedly told his players if they want the money, to go out and win 3 games. They say it's hard to beat the same team twice in the same season, but usually the first game isn't decided by 6 possessions. On the one hand, the Eagles could be harboring revenge from that 48-7 regular season defeat, but on the other, they could be thanking the Saints for inspiring their late season playoff push. Either way you spin it, head coach Doug Peterson says he's taking a forgive but never forget approach as his team rolls into the Big Easy.
We're going to point to it, but our guys know. They knew coming out of that game that they didn't play well. And, things are different obviously now, but, I'm not going to dwell too much on the past. We're obviously we're going to learn from it, and hopefully that will help us, going into this weekend. And but at the same time, I think that was also the game that sort of changed our path just a little bit here in the last month and a half of the season. So, we'll look at it from an X's and O's standpoint, but I won't draw too much, too many parallels from it from other than that.
Eagles QB Nick Foles comes into Sunday's matchup with a 4-0 playoff record over the past 2 years. Straight ahead on News 25, we've got an extra special New Orleans Saints throwback to cap off this Who Dat Playoff Special, plus predictions for the big game from the News team.
Welcome back to the News 25 Saints Special.
Welcome back, everyone. We've reached that point in the show that makes us look really smart or really dumb. Final predictions on the Saints-Eagles from the whole team here at News 25. I'm going to go conservative with a 27-24 decision in favor of the Saints, but the rest of the gang is thinking blowout. Jaylon is going 35-21 Saints. Tanner thinking 34-16 Black and Gold, while our friend John has the Who Dat crew dropping a 33-23 victory over the Eagles. Now, my pick was based solely on history, and that's how we're going to close out the show. Circa the 2006 season, Sean Payton and Drew Brees fresh on the scene and leading the Saints to a playoff win over the Eagles in their first year in the Big Easy. Also a divisional round game, which the Saints won 27-24, the same score of their regular season meeting in Week 6 of that same 2006 season. So maybe history will repeat itself. You've been watching the Who Dat Playoff Special. Thanks for tuning in. And, of course, Who Dat say they gonna beat them Saints.